CEO of academia.edu, and today, as always, we're diving deep into a fascinating piece of academic research. Remember, I'm aiming for neutrality here, just sharing the ideas and not endorsing them. So let's get friendly, curious, and, well, a little bit in the weeds together. Today's paper is titled GHAIBIYYAT fi MUKASYAFAT Ayniya, and it's been brought into beautiful, accessible Malay translation by Jalaluddin Ar-Rawi. Now, maybe you're thinking, whoa, that's a mouthful. What are those words? Okay, let's breathe, let's unpack. GHAIBIYYAT kind of boils down to things unseen, or the hidden realities in spiritual contexts, and MUKASYAFAT is all about mystical unveilings, direct experiences of spiritual truths. This work is originally attributed to the towering figure Sheikh Ahmad Farooqi Sirhindi, a really legendary Sufi thinker, with Jalaluddin Ar-Rawi serving as the translator and possibly editor, so lots of hands in the mix. Here's where we start. What is the core problem or question, right? Well, this paper kind of tackles the possibility of perceiving metaphysical realities through direct mystical experience. Sounds broad, maybe even too abstract. Well, here's the kicker. If you've ever wondered if it's possible, like truly possible, to move beyond book knowledge and religious rituals and encounter the divine face to face, so to speak, this is the terrain. That's a big deal for people in spiritual traditions. If you could actually access spiritual truths directly, what does that mean for the rest of us? Would you need books, rules, teachers, or can you kind of leap over all that and, see for yourself? And let's not forget the significance, especially if you, the listener, are someone who values tradition, or maybe you're curious about the boundaries of human perception and experience. If we entertain the core idea for a sec, it sort of shakes up the question. How far can we trust personal experiences? What kind of knowledge counts as most real anyway? So, on to the methods and structure. The paper itself is a fascinating pastiche. It's not so much methods in the scientific sense, but more a chain of wisdom. You'll notice huge attention is given to what's called the Siyajara, which, imagine a kind of ancestry tree, but for lines of spiritual teachers. The paper meticulously documents the chains of succession for the Qadiriyya, Naqshbandiyya, and Chishtiya Sufi orders. In concrete terms, that means the writer and translator are really, really concerned about authentic transmission of spiritual insight. It's not just, I felt something once, more like, this realization has been passed down from so-and-so, who learned from so-and-so, all the way back to the Prophet. One super tangible insight here is, spiritual authority is inseparable from a lineage of transmission. If you ever doubted the role of mentorship or the importance of historical continuity, this paper treats those as the backbone of meaningful spiritual experience. So it's not just DIY spirituality. It's a whole ecosystem of teachers, rituals, permissions. I mean, there are even letters of authorization, ijazat, in this collection. I authorize you to carry this forward, kind of thing. But here's what strikes me. If you're, say, an ordinary person wondering how you might approach spiritual truths or even knowledge in general, this paper says, seek out a trusted chain, don't just go solo. Maybe you're like me and get lost in IKEA and ignore the arrows on the floor. I know, totally irrelevant, but it popped into my head. This is the opposite approach. Follow the guide, trust the process, don't jump the queue, basically. It's also about humility. Over and over you'll read, we surrender our limitations to God, or we're weak, we accept guidance, which honestly is kind of refreshing. In a world obsessed with hot takes and certainty, saying, hey, all we know is that we don't know much, and we're open to help. Oof, that's a different flavour of wisdom. Now look, I've got to stress again, my task here is to present, not promote. I'm not saying the metaphysical claims in this text are, true with a capital T, but I think the ideas open up some space for anyone who's ever wondered about the borderlands between knowing, believing, and, experiencing. So, if you're listening and you've ever questioned how to approach the hidden or spiritual sides of life, maybe there's something to chew on here. Maybe it nudges you to consider that you aren't alone, that whatever you seek, someone's been down a version of that road, and there's wisdom sometimes in seeking their company. Academic research isn't a set of commandments. It's invitations to dialogue, to reflect, to see what resonates in your context. I hope today's episode offered a window into a tradition that values both direct spiritual encounter and the lived guided wisdom of those who came before. Alright, I'll leave it there before I trail off into a spiral about IKEA's floor plans. Thank you so much for tuning in to In Depth with Academia. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and remember, knowledge is always a journey, never a destination.